Now, let me welcome you to the conversation segment of the Signature Show. This afternoon, our conversation was supposed to be with the Director General of the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria. And that's because of the issue we're discussing this Sunday. But he elected as somebody who has his hands on the issues we are going to raise should represent him. And so this afternoon, we're having a conversation with Razaq Okulaja. Now, Razaq Okulaja is the chairman, Korat Group of Companies, and is a member, National Council of the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria. Razaq, welcome to the conversation.
It's my pleasure to be with you today.
Razaq, I like your smile, except though that you're not wearing my kind of cap.
Yes, you made it obvious that it represents labor. And I'm a laborer as well. Even that I'm an employer of labor, I still have to render service. So when I get calls from my customers and the people I need to give service, I'm still a laborer. So any day, anytime.
But you ought to identify with us because we are the struggling group.
Every one of us is still struggling. We are not there yet.
Now, Razaq, our conversation this afternoon is going to dwell on the responsibility and expectations given to Nigerian manufacturers to drive the Nigerian national economy. Yes, you belong to the organized manufacturers. There are the unorganized ones. But national expectation is that employment generation, wealth creation, even research to expand the boundaries of our own innovativeness and new industries. We are all looking at the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria. Are you in a position to discharge these expectations?
Obviously, yes. MAN is an advocacy body, and of course, we understand the place of manufacturing in the development of any economy. What the organization does is to simply look at how we operate, the environment in which we operate, stand in the position to advise government that, look, these and these can be done for us to do better than we are doing now. When we are talking about treaties or collaborations and all of that, we are the first partakers. We are the ones who are in the forefront. So MAN is in that position to constantly assist government to make the right decisions. We are indeed in a position to help build this economy. And this we've been doing for years. You can't rule it out. Go back a memory lane. You realize when the big multinationals, the big companies in Nigeria, the kind of contributions that have come, especially in the area of job creation, innovativeness, like you've mentioned, and all of that. It's a big task, but MAN has been playing that role and is still very much willing and is well positioned to continue to play that role to see the economy get better.
Razaq, we'll come back to innovativeness and job creation. But for now, one current policy, which incidentally the government has had to keep in abeyance, not that it has rescinded it, is the increase in tariff, electricity tariff. Electricity is regularity, is quality, is cost. These have been at the center of the continued performance, remaining in the economy or exiting in the economy, from the economy, by a number of manufacturers. The touted increase, the proposed increase. First, let me ask you, is it healthy for the manufacturers? Do not be selfish. Do not try to protect. Look at the overall national good. Is it good for manufacturers?
All right. In comparison with other nations or other climes, it is said that the power consumption or the amount we pay for power in Nigeria is relatively low. But whoever is making that comparison has to realize that the operating environment in other climes is absolutely different. Power is a critical factor in manufacturing. It plays a major role. From the research of MAN, it's been able to come up with the fact that most manufacturers spend around 40% of their overhead running cost on power. And if you look at what you can call as the power, what you can describe as power that we receive in Nigeria as manufacturers, 2018, it was just 10 hours a day. That was the average. There's been some improvement after that, but where you look at the operating percentage of manufacturers in Nigeria to be around 59.4% as at 2019, you realize that there is so much to be done. All of these things are influenced by power. I give you a simple scenario. There are industries that don't run on a daily basis for the simple reason of not being able to afford to just stay on power. So what you see them do is to accumulate jobs and then produce and then sit down and wait. It shouldn't be like that. Even the machinery that you import or you are operating with, most of those machineries are designed to work seamlessly, continuously. It's easier. It makes production smoother. You can gather good momentum when you're constantly in production and just shut down at your own times of regular maintenance. The current tariff, if we must be realistic, is a big burden to manufacturers. What do I mean by that? Manufacturers want to pay. Any reasonable manufacturer, you want to pay. You want to stay in production because turnover is what you go after. When you produce more, you make more money. But where all your money or what you could have counted as profit or the gains you should have gained in terms of mileage for your production goes back into the cost of power, it's a big challenge. The power in the first instance, is it even strong enough to give you what you want? You have situations where you have outages most times. The last report, still in 2019, put it that we're having an average of 3 outages every month, every day, which is something we still experience up till now. And most of the machinery you work with, it's even a very risky venture to be having such outages because you must now invest on some kind of backup power. Where I operate from, I have an inverter that is 500 kVA. The power that inverter alone consumes is something else. What does it give me? It gives me 2 minutes backup time. It's not for me to operate. It's just for my machinery not to. But there are times that the inverter fails. And when you have a violent shutdown at times, you can spend hundreds of thousands of dollars just to restore your machinery. So all of that put aside, you now talk about increasing the tariff. For us as manufacturers, if you want to increase the tariff, what does your law say? MITO, with which the NERC and the DISCOs are operating, one of the things that MITO stated clearly is that as power generation gets better, as consumption increases, tariffs should go down. That's the way it's done in advanced climes. But what do you have in Nigeria? What's the reason for wanting to increase tariff? Oh, the GEMCOs are telling you they are not making enough money. The DISCOs are saying they are not making enough money. For us to have stable power supply, we need to have more income. Why must you make manufacturers pay for your power losses? Why must you make that happen? If you want us to contribute to the economy effectively, you must give us a good landing. You want us to compete internationally because of the cost of power, because of the instability of power, because most factories even have to generate their power by the use of their own generators or gas plants and all of that. You end up running costs that cannot help you compete with other clients. And you are talking about us competing. You are talking about us taking a share of the international market. I must let you know, Nigeria produces quality goods. I can say that with all boldness because it is the same machinery, it is the same raw material, it's the same source that the company in Singapore, in China, in Germany, the printing machine we print with, it comes from Germany. It's the same printing machine. The machinery we use for replication of CDs comes from Germany. It is the same machinery anywhere in the world. I can list my machinery on any site and say, okay, I want to sell. The people will come looking for it. It's that same thing we operate from. We use the same, we're on the same pedestal in terms of production and output, but we are not on the same pedestal in terms of cost of production, especially power. We are complaining about that. Now, you are talking about increasing the same tariff when you can't see any commensurate value that is coming from the service or the power that's been supplied.
Now, Razaq, it appears really that the GENCOs and the DISCOs have become quasi-monopolies in the sense that there's no competition challenging them in power production, in power distribution, in power costing. And so they get together and determine at what cost to sell to you, and there's no challenge.
And you don't have an option.
The essence of the GENCOs and DISCOs was to break the NEPA monopoly, put this operation into more hands, create competition, create better service delivery, create competition in costs. If it is not happening, does Manufacturers Association of Nigeria have an alternative paradigm, an alternative model it could suggest for providing electricity and costing and delivering in Nigeria?
Yes, thank you for that question. MAN has its own subsidiary that has been interfacing with service providers for the purpose of generating independent power from independent sources. It's been found that where individuals or conglomerates or service providers can take up their own business and know that, look, we have off-takers, they get much more committed to it, and they are willing to operate at a different level in terms of quality and of service delivery and timeliness and all of that. So for MAN, for every manufacturer, our mindset is simple. Provide this power, but let it be at a competitive rate. The obvious fact is that we cannot continue to depend on the system as it is now until you begin to have a situation where there is smaller units that can provide the required power. When there are some states in Nigeria now that are enjoying such service. There's one, one cluster in Lagos that I know of, where their power supply is independent. And there's no complaint. They have 24 hours supply. Before anything can happen, if there's going to be maintenance, they will be pre-informed. And of course, once you are there and you have that kind of information, you can go back and put yourself together and maybe do some kind of offline maintenance at such times of the shutdown. You plan your production. But the situation we have right now, where there is a monopoly like you've brought out, and you are forced to still stay with whatever is provided is what you have. You don't have any option. It's a problem. Government must look at policies where we can have that open window. There are some opportunities like that, but implementing them is also a challenge. The kind of request that is made of you. I made an attempt once to talk about having a 1 megawatt independent plant. And when I was told the minimum you must pay every month, whether anybody takes off your power or not, is 12 million naira as at then. I quickly put myself back to order. I said, let me concentrate on keeping myself in business before I take up such an investment. It should be something that is flexible. As you come, say, okay, this is available, do the needful. 2019, manufacturers cumulatively spent over 34.7 billion.
On independent power.
On power. Before you now talk about the independent
powering of
generation that you did, 34.7 billion. It means the money is there, but we must find a way to break up this monopoly. We must find a way to do it. When the tariffs were to be increased, one of the conditions was that, okay, everyone will be put on different clusters. If you consume power, if you are provided power up to 12 hours, you'll pay this rate. Who is calculating that? Who is able to, once you buy your, I use a prepaid meter at the factory. Once you put in the units, how do you go back to calculate whatever? It's been a flat rate all the while. There's been no change. Only recently we've been put on load shedding. So once it's about 10 a.m. in the morning, there's no power until 6 in the evening. When we should be producing, there is no power. So it means we must concentrate our production on the night shift, or I switch to the generator. So until government becomes very deliberate and allows individuals and companies who have that interest to generate their own power and pick their own area of concentration where people can buy from. You can tax, you can make your revenue from there, but it has to be in a considerate manner. That is the way to go.
Now, Razaq, I do not have the facts, But I do not know if there are constraining laws to balkanizing the present structure.
There is, definitely. There is.
Because I would have said, if the situation is putting so much pressure on man, why doesn't man pick up an advocacy with the lawgivers, the National Assembly, to say, look, it is in the national interest, not in our individual interests. We can give our families food under the present condition, but we will not generate the kind of jobs and wealth you expect us to generate.
Yes.
Therefore, for the economy, let us look at the laws and whether these things can look, say, for instance, I have enough money to provide power within a standard regulated by a government agency in just Wuse. And any manufacturer who decides to locate in Wuse, for instance, is sure of power 24 hours and pays my bill within the regulated costs. Instead of everybody who generates puts into the national grid and distributors begin to buy and all this hiccup coming in. I wonder whether you will accept to put a little pressure.
Why not? Man has been advocating for that. It's been in a discussion that has been going on. And like I said earlier, man has its own subsidiary, Manpower, that is involved with that. That unit is at the forefront, discussing with independent power producers. But the simple fact is, you have existing laws that guide the operations. And these laws have to be looked into deeply to ensure that it provides an easier landing for power producers, independent power producers, to be able to sell their power. You've hit the nail on the head. What happens now is that everyone, whatever you have, push to the national grid. And it's obvious that is not working. You must be able to break apart this service for us to have effective implementation and distribution of power and utilization as well.
Razaq, I'm going to what I said we'll come to eventually, that is job creation and wealth creation. Let me precede this part of this conversation with a question to you. Is it a favor to manufacturers for government to help individual companies or sectors to do very well and make profit?
It's not a favor, because whatever we are doing, we are only strengthening the economy. If one company can employ 500 individuals, that takes off that burden from government, because such individuals will concentrate on providing service. They know that's where they are earning their living from, earning their living. They have to make sure that they are work. They need to. It will reduce vices in the society. It will help build a better society. It's whatever taxes, whatever production. If such a company is into products that can be exported, for instance, it's going to be saving the government FX, because foreign exchange, the reserves of the country can be kept in place when such monies also come back in. So government will not be doing anyone a favor by helping the manufacturing sector to stay afloat. Instead, let's see what is happening. Look at all the industries that have shut down. Go to Kaduna, for instance. You used to have a lot of textile industries in Kaduna. Where are they today? Go and check the livelihood in Kaduna. Check how it is. Go back to Kano. Kano used to have a lot of tanneries. I did my service here in Kano, and I spent a few years in Kano. And I know how busy Kano was at a point in time, how people were always going to the factory. The major location there was Chalawa. But today, go to Chalawa. Chalawa is a ghost of itself. Most people have left the place. Nothing is going on. So the industries help to build the economy, help for diversification, help for stability, help to provide food on the table, help to ensure that the society is better. So when government makes policies or provides help for industries, what government is doing at the end of the day is preparing a rainy day for itself to sleep.
Government is helping itself as well. Now, let me tell you why I asked that preceding question. Pardon me to couch the next conversation, the next part of this conversation, in rather hard words. There is what I call governance by violence. If you move from this Abuja to Kano, move from this Abuja to Lagos by road, move from this Abuja to Lagos in the southeast, you will see thugs called revenue collectors and task forces. They use nails through across the road, hound vehicles carrying goods, insist on collecting monies that sometimes are not receipted, break windscreens of vehicles of drivers who insist that I've paid similar tax in so local government.
Thank you so much. The question you've just asked,
Can
in actual fact,
government
we are
across
making
this country,
overtures to, because
now
I
you
operate here in the
manufacturers, your
FCT,
euphemism for it is multiple
originally
taxation. But I'm
a
looking
member
at
of
it
the
beyond
Council
the
of
taxing to the
the
method.
FCT Man Association.
Can we
Before
go
moving on
beyond
to
this
join the
governance
national,
by violence,
we are making overtures as
taxation
we
by
speak
violence,
to again bring up
at
this
multiple
issue
layers
with
to a
the
more
Minister
organized
of the FCT.
taxation?
The,
And
the
this
challenge
taxation by
is
violence,
everywhere,
how does it affect you?
especially at the beginning of the year. And what we've seen in operation is most of the states, local governments, they have consultants who are giving targets, who when they're on the street, they don't care how it's done. So some of those persons who actually carry out those things, the thugs, the criminals, I call them criminals because at times, some of them, by the time you see them even, you are even afraid to stop because you don't even know who they are, because anybody can be on the road trying to stop you. They have targets. So they are looking for revenue that they have either paid for or they've been given a target to generate. As man, because man is an association that is obedient, that is very organized, all we've been doing is advocacy. You can't fight for yourself. It even goes beyond just on the road. Right now, you have laws like loading and offloading, where you'll be asked to pay
For loading your goods?
for loading your goods in your company premises, on your premises. You'll be asked to pay. When you want to offload, you'll be asked to pay for offloading goods within your premises. So maybe what is expected is that when you finish your production, the goods should just vanish from your place and appear at where you need to supply them. And you've hit the nail on the head still when you talked about the fact that even when you pay at a particular local government, take Abuja for instance, if you pay the taxes for Amak, by the time you drive from Amak into Buari, which is, the boundaries are not total, they're just minutes within each other, you'll be asked to pay again. Leave from here, going to Gwagwalada, you'll be asked to pay. It's a big challenge, and it is creating issues for manufacturers. In fact, it has gotten to the point that when you want to transport your goods, your heart is in your hands. You don't know what could happen to the goods. You don't know what could happen to your driver. You don't know what could happen to your vehicle. So we need government to take a very clear stand as regards this. One of the things we have asked for in Abuja is, look, Minister, give us a consolidated tax regime. Let us know at the beginning of the year what is expected of us as manufacturers when we pay these taxes. Inform whoever, the collectors, inform the area council chairman. Let them also inform those who are in charge of their revenue. No manufacturer is saying government should not generate revenue, because it is from generated revenue that infrastructure is put in place. When we also pay our taxes, we are helping government to give us infrastructure. It's not going to be an easy task for you as a manufacturer to be the one to tar the road to your factory, to be the one to provide water for you. You can provide for yourself, but what about the people around you? They need also such amenities, so you must play your part. We understand that. But this issue of multiple taxation and obviously the method of collection is a big challenge. You even have instances where some of those consultants come to your factory, they will seal you in the factory. You will see them arrive with a retinue of law enforcement agents with all wielding guns and making all kind of noise, and they will lock you in with your customers, with your staff. Nobody cares. If your vehicles are stopped on the road, they destroy it, and there's nobody you can hold accountable. The most you will do is to go to court. When you go to court, who are you looking for? Some of those people who are even on those roads collecting those taxes, if you try to trace them, they don't even have a location.
Offices you can trace them to.
By the time they see that the heat is getting much where they have situated themselves, they just move on because there's nothing holding them. They have the backing for collection by the law, somewhat, in quote. They have the backing of collection by whoever has put them on the road. And you, who is legitimately doing your business, you become a victim. It is an issue that must be put on the burner, and the government must be seen doing the needful to ensure that manufacturers are protected. Otherwise, these things translate to more cost. If I'm forced, if I've paid my taxes or road taxes, for instance, in Amak, and you're asking me to pay the same in Buhari, that is duplication of payment. If I have my way, who is going to pay for it? It's the consumers. Because if I can't stay in business, my staff cannot get their salaries, and I cannot stay in production. If I can't do that, what's the essence of producing? It's better to just shut down the factory. So these things have a boomerang effect. If we don't create the level playing field, if we don't create the right environment, you see manufacturers closing shop. And we've seen that happen. In my sector, for instance, within the last 4 years, more than 5 competitors have closed down. Quietly. They've closed down. They said they can't do it anymore. So we are surviving just by, how would I put it, sheer will. Because you are telling yourself, if I've put in 7, 8 years of my savings into this business, I can't just let it go under like that. And you also have people who are depending on you, who, if you are not producing, they are looking as you, no matter, even when you are not producing, they are still telling you, sir, my children are going into school. Can I get a salary advance? Even when the salary has not been earned. So government must realize the importance of the manufacturing sector and help us put these things in the right perspective.
Razaq, let me speak for the government. The accusation really is that most manufacturers, no, many manufacturers try to corrupt the system to get away without paying tax. And therefore, they have to use some kind of rough tactics to force them to pay tax. And I can give you an example. On this very program, I had one gentleman, George Ubo. George Ubo is a whistleblower. On this program, he showed that Nigeria's international oil companies have effectively been able to manipulate their way, and Nigeria has lost almost $9 billion on paid taxes. Now, if such amount of money could be lost by by underhand practice of manufacturers, isn't government justified really to twist you hard in order to get what they can get to run the economy?
2 wrongs don't make a right. You have man. Man is the umbrella body for manufacturers. Where government is able to prove a fact that this company is refusing to meet its obligations, I am sure man is in a position to also say, look, don't paint us in the bad light. And of course, there are clear sanctions where you fail to pay your taxes. Can I let you know something? It's not one-sided. For those manufacturers or the oil companies who are able to manipulate their way, they didn't just do it. Some of those situations actually come through overtures or by overtures from some of the agents of government. That's another discussion.
I can tell you how to get off this.
That's another discussion for another day. But any manufacturer who understands the essence of manufacturing, who knows his position, who knows why he set up the business he's running, wants to speak with boldness. I want to speak with boldness. I want you to come into my office and I tell you, what is it that you want? You not pay taxes, and I show you, this is my receipt. I don't want any undercuttings. And I know there are many, many manufacturers like that who just want peace of mind. A lot of times too, why do you think manufacturers are cutting corners is because the people on the street or the collectors don't also want to remit to government, so they want to harass you, get whatever they want to get. A lot of, when they come and you say, can I get the official bill? One collector can come today and give you a bill of 1 million. Another one will come, not knowing that someone has given you, on the same subject, on the same tax subhead, and give you a bill of 2 million. So you are caught in between. Who do you follow? So where government sits up and is able to work directly with manufacturers to say, look, at the beginning of the year, we expect you to pay this and this and this and this because of your category, which is verifiable with man. Man has records of our members. Because of your category, this is what we expect you to pay. Obviously, you and I know that taxation is graded. The tax you pay may not necessarily be what I'll pay because of my capacity. So It's graded. Now, this is your demand notice. And once that has been given, you know that when that manufacturer defaults, you know where to go, you know how to hold them accountable. But where there is no clear-cut procedure, where it's about whoever can do what. So you see even the collectors or the consultants jostling and trying to outwit each other. Okay, no, don't pay that one. Okay, don't worry. Instead of paying that 100,000, pay me 50,000. I will give you the same receipt. And you see all kinds of receipts flying everywhere. What do you expect? So no manufacturer, no sane manufacturer, no patriotic manufacturer actually wants to cut cost or wants to undercut government by not paying taxes. The challenge we are having is that the regime is not well laid out, and you find yourself falling victim a lot of times. Let government do the needful. Give us the regime to pay. I can tell you with all boldness that manufacturers will do the needful. That way you are bolder to operate.
Now, in the 2021 budget, the spirit of it is that government will be able to generate enough revenue. In that same spirit, government expects job generation. That's one unfortunate situation in Nigeria today, that government is the biggest employer of labor.
True.
Meanwhile, we are running an economy that is supposed to be driven by the private sector. In the 21 budget, government expects so much money from manufacturers, from the private sector, for individual operators, also in terms of job generation. Look at the environment. Look at your operation possibilities and constraints. Look at your own projections. Will the Manufacturers Association of the manufacturing sector really be able to live up to the expectations of the 2021 budget, generating revenue, increasing job generation?
At the pace we are going, it's a 50-50 situation. Unless the operating environment gets better, unless there is more support from government, unless the issue of tariff of power increase, you are asking us to bring in more money into the economy. You are saying, we are here to help you, but you are taking it from the back door. There's nothing that you can benefit from such. Unless the operational environment is better positioned, that aspiration may not be met. Every manufacturer wants to grow his business from a turnover of 100 million to 10 billion. That's the essence of setting up a factory. But where the operating environment does not encourage you to grow your business, what you're having right now, you have a lot of the big multinationals quietly easing out their operations to other countries. They are still here in Nigeria. They have the UC, still a few members of staff, but a lot of their production is done outside the country. And they bring it back in quietly. Or the major things that they should have invested in that will help their production, they keep doing it outside or import it. How then do you think the economy will grow? Say, for instance, if any of the big multinationals, one of their major raw materials, it needs them to set up a plant. If you set up a plant anywhere, you know the kind of employment that will create. But where the environment does not encourage you, the exchange rate is astronomical, everything you need to do, the forex is not available. When you go, you stay on the queue to procure raw materials, you will wait. So what you end up doing is you go to the black market.
Let me interject at this point, because there's an explanation, because this might cap this conversation.
Good.
There's an explanation I need. Are there specific policies that are constraining the manufacturing sector, specific, that you would want the government to look at again?
Okay, good. One major one has to do with our policies that border on finances, financial policies. If you want a manufacturer to remain solid in his production, he has to be able to access funds at a very minimal rate, which is what you have.
Bank of Industries?
Bank of Industry, how much can Bank of Industry cover? I'm a benefactor of Bank of Industry, but I can tell you what I went through before I was able to access the funds. It's 10%, but there are other charges that I had to pay. BG, monitoring fee. When you put all of that together, it still becomes very cumbersome. Other clients, if what we are celebrating 9%, 10%. You have other clients that do their lending at 1.5%, at 2%. How do you expect me to compete with such manufacturer who is doing similar production like myself? It's not possible. So one major thing that government must look into is the financial policies. What are we able to do to help the manufacturing sector? Government has been showing a lot of magnanimity. You have a lot of funds. You have different kinds of funds that have been released, especially with the COVID and all of that. But how many, what's the percentage of manufacturers who are able to access those funds? How many?
What's accountable for that? You are not being able to access the fund. The conditions.
The conditions. The conditions. The regime you have to go through. Oh, you must bring this collateral. You're asking me if I had the collateral in the first instance, or I had the money to come to do what I needed, why should I come to you in the bank? There are instances you go to the bank and they'll say you need a cash-backed collateral. Meaning the money must be there. What are you talking about? If I have it, why should I come give it to you? Why don't I do what I need to do? So we need to be realistic with these policies. Some policies that are, in quote, based on the book, are not necessarily tenable when you come to the field. We must look at the field, look at the nitty-gritty of the operations, and look at how best we can make things work.
Some people are getting this money.
Some persons are getting the money. I give you an instance. I was able to get BOI money. It took me 2 years. By the time I got the funds, when I was asking for the funds, I was to buy 10 containers, and I'm giving you a practical example of my raw material. By the time I got the funds, I had to add money to buy 4. And I still had to repay. So, what are we talking about?
It's an uphill tax. In the past 35 minutes or thereabout, I've been conversing with Razaq Okulaja. Razaq Okulaja, in this conversation, is representing the Director General of the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, but is the chairman of a Korat group of companies. I hope I'm right.
Correct.
Great. And is a member, National Council of the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria. How do you feel about this conversation? What expectations do you have from our manufacturing sector? When we say that the private sector should drive the Nigerian economy, does this conversation give you any hope? Let the conversation continue. Let me thank Razaq for coming to the conversation.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
My name remains Kumabos Njoku. Let's meet same time next Sunday. Enjoy your day. Good afternoon.